So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the event today. It's hosted by Discover Econ and it's part of their Women in Economics series, the aim of which being essentially getting more girls into economics, interested in economics, and hopefully thinking about pursuing a career in it. There are a couple of facts that I want to quickly mention on here that tell you what you need to know about the picture in economics today. One is that 1 in 6 boys take A-level economics, but only 1 in 17 girls do. And female undergraduates studying economics are outnumbered by men 2 to 1. So we can tell that those differences are really stark there. But we've got a great panel today. I'm Aarti Narchipan, I'm economics correspondent at the Times, and I'm really excited to speak to Shruti Sinha, Annabelle Williamson, Kate Milne, Charlotte Thompson, and Matilda Casamonte. Hi from Cotswold School. Hi everyone. So without any further ado, I want to have a chat with our panelists about their journey from school to how they started their careers, any barriers they faced, and whether they'd recommend it, what their experience has been. Shruti Sinha is a senior economist at Amazon, and I will leave it to you, Shruti, if you can tell us a little bit about how you got into what you do and your journey from school.
Yeah, hi everyone. Really happy to be here and to talk about my journey in economics. So I've actually come into economics with a little bit of a circuitous route. So I started off, so I was in high school in India, and I kind of was quite confused as to what I wanted to do. My parents wanted me to become an engineer or a doctor, but I wasn't quite keen on that. And what I ended up doing was actually an undergrad degree in mathematics, because I just thought, math I like numbers and math made sense, and I did that. And when I was doing math, I basically realized that it was too theoretical for me, maybe, even though I enjoyed the sort of very precise aspect of it. And I wanted to combine it with aspects of social science, like things about policy and things like that. And that's when I started thinking about moving into economics. So I don't know if a lot of you know, there is a lot of postgraduate level economics where maths is really the language of economics. Like in sciences, you have maths as the language of physics, that way in a lot of like modern sort of graduate level economics, maths can be quite useful to study, or at least a knowledge of mathematics can be quite useful to study some of these social science problems and models. And so that really seemed like a very attractive combination of things that I like doing and things I wanted to sort of go into. And so that's when I came to LSE in London to do my MSc in economics. And one of the things that I loved, of course, there is the general perception that economics is all about interest rates and central banks and, GDP and all of that. But actually, what really excited me about economics was how it dealt with issues of understanding people and firms and what are the incentives that drive them, right? So these brought me to topics of game theory and statistics, which is talking about econometrics, which is talking about, what are the statistical tools to study these very interesting game theory models of how consumers behave and how firms behave, etc. So that sort of became my area of interest and what I got very fascinated by. And I spent another 6 years in grad school and did a PhD in economics, specializing in econometrics. And, I was doing what my specialty was in this field of econometrics for game theory. So I was trying to use economics to study things like who marries whom, looking at the census data and trying to see, do people have preferences for marrying? Are there policies where we can like improve, inequality in society through the sort of matching or, how people sort themselves through marriages and other kind of households. So there's a lot of like, I think I'm bringing this up because I want to kind of highlight that apart from that very sort of the image of economics to be in this field of that we have, when we are young, of it being very dry and very related to interest rates and central banks and just the macro economy. There's actually a vast field where you have you can basically have a confluence of a lot of topics ranging from mathematics, statistics, social sciences of different types. I just mentioned something like household economics that we study. There's market design kind of studies that we do. So, like, for example, the kidney exchange market was also something I studied within my specialty. So, who should, how should you prioritize who gets a kidney, for instance, in the medical field. So, just really a lot of important questions which cuts across a lot of fields, whether it's social science, or statistics, or just even macroeconomic principles. All of them sort of come together and sort of give you this economics, sort of makes economics. So in the last century, economics has really evolved to be this really, broad field. So, not to say that the PhD was easy. It was very challenging in many ways, but it was still in many ways, it was also very rewarding. And then after that, I went on to teach economics at the Toulouse School of Economics, which is in the southwest of France. And I was an assistant professor there for 6 years. Teaching econometrics to masters, to postgraduate students. And, at some point, I had a lot of fun doing that, and I did some research and all of that. But then I just kind of wanted to see something different. And that's when I moved to Amazon about 2 years ago. And now I work there as a senior economist. So this is a good segue into also thinking about what economists do in a place like Amazon, because my 13-year-old cousin tells, do you actually pack the cardboard boxes with all the stuff, or do you actually go and deliver it in vans? And so, when we think about Amazon, which is this big, giant, sort of multinational retailer, we're like, okay, so we can think about corporate heads, we can think about engineers, we can think about the delivery guy who you actually, comes and delivers the stuff. But, what is the role of an economist there? And that's a big question mark. So I think I'll just do a quick segue into the kind of problems we solve as an economist. So as an economist at Amazon, I see my role as being, an economist is really there to take some really ambiguous, some really hard problems and put we have the special skill where we can actually simplify all the problems through the lens of economics, through the lens of structuring the problem in terms of profit and loss, in terms of incentives, in terms of optimization, all kinds of areas that, we are trained in. And we actually make things tractable, find a way to solve this problem. And one of the very interesting things in Amazon is that as an economist, I have to work with a whole lot of data. So I'm interacting with a whole lot of people with skills, with very deep skills into dealing with data. I'm also dealing with, on the other end, once I've got my solution to scale it at the scale that Amazon exists, I'm dealing with a lot of engineers. And then I'm also influencing sort of the business decision makers about, what is the important problem to solve and how to solve it. So you're really at the center, and you have a lot of exposure and influence on different types of people and different types of job families. So it's a really, really exciting, new, and sort of a niche space in this big tech industry. I kind of wanted to give a small example of the kind of problem I solve. I don't know if I have time for it, but maybe I'll take 1 minute. So as an example, for example, currently I'm working on this problem where we have to decide. So we see that people really love to get stuff really quickly, right? You press your button on Amazon and you get the stuff next day. But this is quite an expensive and quite operationally heavy decision for Amazon, right? Because we have to make sure that all the goods that you might be interested in is stocked somewhere close to you, so that when you make the order, it gets to you on time. We can't stock everything very close to you, and we can possibly not deliver everything very fast to you just because there are physical constraints, right? So one of the questions then is, what kind of money are people willing to pay for, faster speed? So that, becomes a customer preference or a consumer preference question, which there are lots of economic models that are designed to solve that. The other part is which products should we be stocking more, etc. So a lot of these type of questions which come up, are solved through the lens of economics, through that lens of optimization, consumer preference, demand theory, firm theory, all of that. So it's really very relevant. Everything you study in a classroom suddenly becomes very relevant. And I think I want to just end by telling you, I think one of my biggest, one of the things that economics has really done for me in a good way, and that is, it's just opened up opportunities for me in so many different fields. So when I was at LSE, I did an internship on a trading floor. I have worked in academia. I'm now in a big tech sector. I've also had job offers from, litigation consulting firms. So I'm just one of the things that economics has done, and I don't know if there are that many fields that can do that, which is just give you the chance. It just opens door in so many different fields, that you can always keep exploring and learning and just trying out different things. So I think that's a very, very unique strength of doing economics, just because it sits at the intersection of so many different subjects. It gives you also the possibility to enter so many different types of sectors and jobs and roles. And I'm sure you're going to hear from the remaining panelists on that variety of and the breadth of things you can do with economics. And one top tip from me is be open, be flexible, and also economics is a lot about things at the intersection of a lot of, it's quite multidisciplinary. So you need to sort of, one of the things is be open to things and try to, really upskill yourself in terms of different techniques like maths, a little bit of social science, a little bit of data and technical stuff. And I think that can really help you build a skill set, which will take you very far in this field. But that's all for me. And Q&As in the chat are fine, and I'll give it over to Aarti.
Thanks so much, Shruti. That's really interesting, especially what you were saying about exactly how your day-to-day job works, because everyone has ordered from Amazon, but I think people would be interested to know how, the thinking that goes behind it. If you've got any questions for Shruti or any of the other panelists, please do put it in the chat. I can see that the chat is going off at the moment, so you know where to put them, and I'll come to them at the end. So please do get them adding up in there and we'll come back to them. I'd like to move on to Annabelle. She is a degree apprentice at the Bank of England. Could you please tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm actually quite pleased with myself that I remember to unmute, because in the practice, I did forget to unmute myself. So yeah, as Aarti said, I'm Annabelle. I'm a degree apprentice at the Bank of England. So I have a very different career journey so far to Shruti, given that I'm actually only 1.5 years out of school. So the crazy thing is, I'm actually probably a more similar age to lots of the people tuning into this than I am to those who I work with on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I've had quite a short journey so far. So I'm going to focus a bit about my journey, but also how I kind of got here. So I joined the bank straight from sixth form. So I didn't follow the conventional route of going to uni, even though at an all-girls grammar school, it was very much kind of, you must go to uni, and that's the only route for you. When I said to my teachers I was thinking of doing a degree apprenticeship, they were kind of like, Annabelle, no, you need to go to uni, you need to do economics at uni. And I kind of thought, well, perhaps a little bit stubborn maybe, but I thought, well, no, I'm going to prove that wrong, because that's not true. I don't need to do that. So I decided that I really wanted to do economics, to take that further. And I won't lie, it was a little bit of a challenge, because there's not that many at the moment, and touch wood, it does change, but at the moment there's not that many degree apprenticeships in pure economics. There's lots in finance and banking and customer banking, that kind of sector. But in pure economics, there aren't that many at the moment. But as I say, I found the one with the Bank of England, and I kind of thought, yeah, that's what I'd like to do. So just to give a quick overview of what it is, so I am currently studying economics at the University of Kent. I do that 1 day a week, and then 4 days a week I'm working. I call it my bank work, so I'm actually doing my day job, as it were. At the bank, I sit in the Climate Hub. So just to give a little overview of what the bank does, sorry if this is teaching you to suck eggs, but the Bank of England, its role is to kind of maintain one of the roles is to maintain financial stability. So looking at what could happen, what has happened, what we're seeing right now, and building that all together. So the department I sit in, it takes that in quite a niche focus, looking at how climate could affect that. So again, it's very much based on what has happened in the past, what are scientists predicting, what are different models predicting, how are we able to cope with what might happen. And it is a very open question because we just don't know what's going to happen with climate. You know, it's such an innovative area that is changing constantly, and there's so many different opinions that we don't know what's going to happen. So it's kind of the role of the department that I sit in to take all of these different huge range of outcomes that could happen and think, right, what are the specific effects that could happen? And taking that one step further and then thinking, okay, well, what can we do about it? It's all well and good saying this could happen, but how might that filter into the financial system? And actually, what can we do about that? How can we prepare for that? How can we mitigate where possible? So that's kind of the role of the bank. And then in terms of the role of the department that I sit in, and in terms of me, it's difficult to say that I use economics fully. I'll put my hands up, and at the moment my role isn't fully economics based, but I think that's purely because I am still studying. You know, I'm a year and a half into a 4-year economics degree. I've just turned 20. You know, I am not a fully fledged economist by any stretch of anyone's imagination, but actually having that perspective, seeing this economics go on around me is so insightful. And just relating that to my economics, seeing what I'm learning at uni actually happen in the real world. It's all well and good being told the theory and being told, you know, economics, you know, this is what should happen, give you a lovely fancy model that's got, goodness me, 50 equations feeding into it. The reality is, as Shruti said, we live in the real world, right? I would love to say to you, if the price goes up, you're going to buy less, right? That is the basic economic theory. If prices goes up, you're going to buy less. Well, you might be stubborn like me and think, well, actually, I'm going to buy more because I'm going to buck the system. And that's what we build into. And seeing that actually happen around us and seeing how models don't always translate how we think they should is so incredibly interesting, and just allows me to actually build this bigger knowledge of economics rather than just saying, right, well, I've learned that as this happens, this goes through. Seeing it in real life is so fascinating. And then Artie, I don't know if you want me to go into kind of how economics is present or whether we're going to come back to that. It's completely up to you. I know that you want us to talk about that, but I'm happy to leave it open to the other panelists and come back, or whatever works.
Yeah, I reckon let's come back to, we can have a chat about that at the end. But if there's anything else that you wanted to bring out about any barriers you felt you'd faced on your journey to where you are now?
I think for me, the main barrier was, and it kind of takes it away from economics, but at the same time it doesn't, that the main barrier was getting into the degree apprenticeship was people's opinions. Everyone has an opinion, right? Everybody has an opinion, and whether that opinion agrees with you or disagrees with you, unfortunately, people aren't always afraid to let you know of their opinion. You know, saying to I remember vividly, absolutely adored my economics teacher, but saying to my economics teacher, oh, you know, I don't want to do the conventional uni of studying economics at uni and then going into a master's and doing it that way. I remember her saying to me, but Annabelle, if you want a career in economics, you have to study, okay? And you have to go to uni and you have to study that. And I'm not sitting here saying I disagree with that. You do have to study, because at the end of the day, it's something that you have to learn and understand and see. But I would throw that back and say, what is a better way to learn than to see it happen? I know that I'm very much a visual learner, and I'm very much I like to see things in action. So what is a better way for me to learn how economics works than to be somewhere where I am seeing economics decisions every single day, seeing how it does work and how it doesn't work, literally seeing that every single day, as I say, rather than just reading it from a textbook. Because at the end of the day, you're going to come across these issues where the theory doesn't always translate into reality. You're going to come across that. I'm sure Shruti and all the other panelists have come across that in their working world. So seeing that from the off, you know, comparing a theory that I'm learning at uni, coming into work and saying, well, actually, that theory may not stand to reason because of X, Y, Z, is so much easier for me to comprehend and for me to understand, rather than being told that straight from a lecturer. So yeah, I would say the opinions of other people, but again, caveating that with, you've got to trust your gut. For me, going to uni, and some of the students on this call may think I'm very strange, but my idea of a good night out is not being sat in my uni room at 5 o'clock in the morning, let's face it, possibly with my head down a toilet because I've drank far too much the night before. I knew that wasn't really the lifestyle I wanted. Some of my friends, absolutely, they love it. They absolutely love it. I got a text from them an hour before I came into the office this morning, letting me know that they just got in from a night out. Fantastic if that's their ideal way of spending these years of their life. But I knew for me, actually, I wanted to get into the world of work, and I wanted to start seeing things in real life. And that's something that I couldn't really have done at uni. So yeah, follow your gut. Listen to those opinions of people around you, because actually they might, as I say, I'm a little bit stubborn, and they might be the ones to actually go, no, that's going to make me really want to do it. And yeah, I'll leave my other bits to come back to later.
Thanks very much.
Hopefully that gives, just a rough overview.
Thanks very much. I hope that it helps people to hear that. I know that it's a very peer pressured time, especially if a lot of people are going to uni. Finishing school is just quite a difficult time because you're kind of compared to so many other people. So I think it's really helpful to hear from you that you did experience that, but you're happy for the decision that you made, which was a little bit against the norm. So thank you very much for sharing
Definitely.
that. I'd like to move on to Kate. Kate is knowledge exchange assistant even at the Fraser-Vander Institute. Kate, could you tell us a bit about your experience?
Hi everyone. So I am an assistant economist at the Fraser-Vander Institute, and I started working there just under 2 years ago. I was actually very fortunate to be able to study economics at school, because I know it's not always an option, but the school that I went to had a lot of different subjects. So I studied that from National 5, which is the equivalent of GCSEs, through to higher. And then when I was making my choices for applying to university, I wasn't too sure just yet exactly what I wanted to do. I had actually initially applied to a finance degree. So I started off at the University of Strathclyde, where I completed my undergraduate, and all throughout university up until around third year, I was still very undecided on which route I wanted to go, whether that was economics or whether that was finance. And in my third year, the summer of third year into fourth year, I undertook an internship at the Fraser-Varander Institute, where I was doing some very much applied work. And that really spurred on my interest in the field. And I just didn't really ever relate too much. I didn't really think pursuing a career in finance or accounting was what I really wanted to do. It didn't really, just relate to me that much. Whereas when I started to do some more applied work, I really saw just how widely spread economics reaches into so many different other fields and so many different areas of interest to me. And that's when I decided to cut down from doing a joint honours in economics and finance to just purely doing a single honours. So that was my fourth year. And then from there on, I realised that economics was the one for me, and I applied to do my master's. So I'm currently on the Scottish Graduate Programme in Economics at the University of Edinburgh. And it is, as Shruti was saying, it's very mathematical based. And I wasn't the strongest candidate at maths when I was at school. However, it's really just getting used with things, getting your head down, and it will come to you if you just work hard. You will see the end result. So I will be finishing up my master's in September this year and graduating in November, and hope to stay on with my current job, which is an assistant economist at the Fraser-Varander Institute. So we're based in Glasgow, and we're actually part of the University of Strathclyde. And we do a lot of work with business, the public, and also the third sector. So a lot of what I do, we publish a lot of reports, and we do a lot of sort of economic impact assessments. So more recently, I've been working on a lot of publications where we've worked with who have we worked with recently? Balfour Beatty, the Association of British Pharmaceuticals, Robertson Group, so really like a wide breadth of different organisations. So that's from construction to life sciences to pharmaceuticals, and we do a lot of modelling and just general sort of economic consultancy work, and it is very much applied, and that does tie into a lot of the things that I do in my master's. So we do sort of the basis sort of theoretical stuff in our micro macro classes, but we have so many other different option courses. So we've got economic policy, where you are using the more applied side of things, then development economics, different areas that really sort of tie into just general day-to-day life. My interest predominantly lies sort of with more sort of gender economics, development and health economics. Talk about the fact that when I was sat in the classroom when I was in third and fourth year of school, my sort of preconception of economics was that it was just a lot of white older men in suits, and a lot of what they were talking about was money and finance and banking, and that is totally what economics is. And that is one, honestly, really quite small portion of what economics is. And it's vast. It really is vast. I've been really fortunate to work on quite a lot of different projects. My undergraduate dissertation focused on the empowerment of women, and I looked at reproductive rights and choices of women. And there's just so many different things that it feeds into, and if you can find like a real interest that lies with you and you want to focus on, I'm sure economics touches it. And so I'd say just where you are right now, if you're at school or if you're at university, and you're thinking of pursuing a career in economics, it's really just about breaking down those barriers of your thoughts and thinking, it's so much more than what I think, even what we're taught in schools. But obviously you need to start from somewhere. So maybe what you're taught in schools, as you grow and go through different aspects of life, you see all the different opportunities that economics holds.
Hey, thank you so much. And I totally agree with your point about economics is so much broader than you think. I remember I was at school and I went to, I think it was a summer school or something like that. And we were taught about gift yield and basically the inefficiency of Christmas. Essentially just like, well, if you know, for people listening, essentially the idea that the yield is how close to the way you'd spend your money the gifts are, and usually the yield falls the less someone knows you, but then it increases when someone's a really distant relative because they just give you money so that it becomes effectively what you would have bought with it anyway. So it's kind of, I think it's just really interesting how many different things it spans onto. I totally agree with you that what people's perception of the men in suits is just, it's a shame, because it does mean that it kind of creates barriers to a lot of other really exciting parts of the industry. So thank you for highlighting that. We definitely want to come back to you with a couple of the questions, but could we move to Charlotte now? Charlotte is an apprentice at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, and will tell us a little bit about her experience.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Really excited to speak to you all and hopefully share my journey to where I am now and encourage some of you to consider economics at A level or degree level, or just as a potential future career path. So similar to Annabelle, I am a degree apprentice, but I work at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. So I am only just shy of 3 years out of school. So I haven't had a very long career journey yet, but still, I'll just talk a little bit about how I got to where I am now. So I went to an all-girls school, secondary school, which sadly didn't offer GCSE economics. So I ended up moving for sixth form to the sort of partner boys' school, which takes girls in sixth form, which I suppose looking back is kind of sort of slightly sad that I felt I had to do that in order to pursue sort of more mathematical STEM subjects, which weren't really focused on in the girls' school. But yeah, that meant I was able to take maths and economics at sixth form. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do, to be honest. I knew I liked maths. I also liked sciences. I also liked history. I kind of just had an interest in lots of different subjects. And I think in the end, that's why economics really did appeal to me, because it covers such a wide range of topics, as some of the other panelists have already discussed. But I think definitely if you're thinking about maybe doing economics at A level or degree, I'd say, you know, if you have an interest in sort of maths, geography, psychology, politics, history, there's so many different subjects that link to it. I think that's what I've enjoyed most about it, is I haven't had to sort of drop any of those interests in order to pursue economics, because it all links to it. So after school, I actually went to the University of Warwick, where I studied economics. I was only there for 1 year, and honestly didn't really have a great time there, mainly because it was the start of the COVID pandemic. I think lots of people that started university at that time found it really difficult. So I took a year out, and that's when I came across the Government Economic Service degree apprenticeship, which I'm currently doing. So I applied for that, and I just thought it was perfect for me. Luckily, I got onto the apprenticeship, so I dropped out of Warwick and I started that. So I'm now in my second year of the apprenticeship. So I suppose just what I've learned from that is don't be afraid to sort of take your time to think about what you want to do, but also don't be afraid if you sort of make the wrong choice. Or I don't really see it as the wrong choice, because I think I did what I did with the best information I had at the time, and it's led me to where I am now, where I'm ultimately a lot happier and really enjoying my job and my study. But yeah, don't sort of be afraid to change your choices, and think that just because you haven't just if you've made a decision, you don't have to stick with it. Like, lots of people joke that I like dropped out of university. But realistically, I'm still studying at university now. I'm still working towards my economics degree, and I work at the Foreign Office, which I'll go on to briefly now. So yeah, I work in it's called the Foreign Development and Commonwealth Office. It's part of the civil service, so I work for the government. It was formerly two separate departments, the Foreign Office and the development side, but it's now been brought together. And the work that we do is super varied. More broadly, we are thinking about how we can help developing countries grow and develop. And then the other side to our work is how to manage relations with foreign countries. So it's all sort of super relevant, looking at current affairs. And I've had the opportunity to work on so many interesting projects already. I do a lot of work around the current ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. I look at how that's affecting both their economies as well as how it's affecting our economy. I've done some work looking at China's growth path and how sustainable we think that is, and what we think is coming in the future for them. So it's been really interesting to see how much impact we can make. I think that's what I really love about the job I'm doing at the moment, is I feel like I'm really making an impact, and that's something that was really, really important to me. And I knew that I didn't want to take the economics route that lots of people do, which is absolutely fine, of sort of going into investment banking, and that just wasn't for me. It didn't align with my values. Whereas I'm still getting to use economics now, which I love, but from more a development angle, and really thinking about how we can make a difference and how we can help people. So yeah, I'll stop there, but thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, Charlotte. And yeah, I don't really like the term dropout either. Like, I feel like you should be constantly assessing what you're doing and if it's actually serving you, and not just sleepwalking into the next thing because it's what you chose. So yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your experience of changing your mind and then acting on that, because I think that's really important, because yeah, the peer pressure is real. I remember. Our final panelist is Matilda Casamonte. She is an economic analyst at KPMG. Matilda, I'll come to you now before we go open up for a bit more of a discussion.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for thank you so much to all the panelists for sharing their stories. I'm really happy to be part of this call. And I'm Italian, so I did most of my studies in Italy, and the educational system is quite different. So I didn't study economics at high school. We don't have the chance to do that. So I was really interested in mathematics, but also in literature, and I really like poetry, and I really like philosophy as well. So as some of the other panelists have said already, economics was something that gave me, or at least I thought that could give me the opportunity to combine all of these things that I like and study them at university. So I decided to study economics, and I studied economics in Italy. And thanks to one of the exchange programs that was offered by my university, I had the chance to study abroad in Australia, in Sydney, and there I took a course which was development economics, which I liked so much and encouraged me to continue study and focus my studies on applied development economics. So I decided to study in the UK because the university system was quite similar to the Australian one, but I was much closer to my hometown as well in Italy. And so I did my MSc at Warwick, and there I focused on applied economics, development economics, gender economics, and labor economics. So I was really interested at the intersection of all these subjects, and actually how to use economics to solve social issues, on how to make society more inclusive, policies more inclusive, and make sure that female as well have the same opportunities, same representation, and how to foster economic equality. And therefore, I wanted to continue, after my master, I wanted to continue to study economics, and but I wasn't really sure if I wanted to go and do a PhD. So I decided to first take a step back and try some research position that could actually make me understand whether I really wanted to be in academia or not. So I worked as a junior economist in a think tank, and I was mainly looking at in Italy. So it was mainly focusing on monitoring what the economic choices of the government, so government spending were, both at the national level in Italy, but also the European level. So how economic decision from a national and regional perspective were taken and how money were spent. And afterwards, I worked as a research assistant in Sweden in an economic department. So I was supporting all economists and professor in the research. So I was doing a lot of programming and data analysis and supporting that side of their work, because while you do research, you have to do data analysis. So you have a lot of maths and statistics, and nowadays you need to learn a bit of programming language as well. So I was using a lot of different like Python, Stata, which are like programs that you use to analyze data, but you also have to write a lot because maybe you help professor with their manuscripts or you prepare some slide. And at the same time, I was helping them with teaching. So I was working as well as a teaching assistant and teaching to some undergraduate and master students there. And eventually I decided to explore option in the private sector. So since last September, I am an analyst and I work in London as in the economics team of KPMG. And in particular, there are different practices in the economics team, and I'm in the public and economic appraisal. So what I do is evaluation of projects, programs, or policies against some objectives, so some economic objectives, or I also do some economic appraisal, which means that I do an economic evaluation and I try to assess the impacts of some programs, projects, or some organization and their economic impact at the regional level, for example. And yeah, and this is a bit part of my journey so far. But as most of the other panelists have said, I've tried don't be scared of trying different things. Economics actually gives you a lot of opportunity to try different sectors, public sector, private sector, and like even the third sector, because you can work as well in with non-governmental organization in developing countries or in developed countries. So you can also work abroad or actually economics gave me the opportunity to actually travel a lot as well. So you can try different jobs, and I would encourage you to try as much as you can and follow your gut, as Annabelle said, and don't be scared to change your path, as Charles said as well. So if you try something and if you feel like that's not for you, feel free to change. There's no and like it's very important that you try different things to find what you like the most, and economics give you a lot of opportunity to do that. And yeah, and it's a very interesting subject, and you have the opportunity to actually in your daily life have an impact, like what you do has an impact on people, whether you work in the private sector, in the public sector, or in the third sector. You have the opportunity to make an impact on people's life, because everyone takes economic decision, and actually you as an economist, you actually at the end make like a decision on how to frame either your society, your organization, or how your organization work, and then that makes an impact on the life of other people as well, the career and of others. So that's really meaningful if like it brings meaning out of your job. So it's really rewarding career.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the panelists. It's been so interesting to hear from you. I've got a few questions, quite a few questions coming in. I am just trying to, sorry, my Wi-Fi is broken, so I'm on my phone. So I'm just trying to open up the right chat to get the, okay, right, I think we're there. Right, so to all the panelists, feel free to jump in if you've got an answer to this. The first question I'd like to put to you, which has come in, is how can we remove the misplaced perceptions of economics being a male subject from an early school age? Because too many women arrive at sixth form with a gender-biased view of economics. Would anyone like to come in on that one?
I can have a go at it. So I think I replied on that chat as well. And I think what's really needed is a complete reframing of what is economics. I think we need to go away from economics as about macro policies, as it's currently known, about GDP, about interest rates, about banks. I think we need to introduce it as a multidisciplinary subject, and we need to understand what is economics at the end of the day. It's about understanding society. It's about understanding how the people who live in the society, what are the incentives that drive them to make certain choices, and it's about how we can influence those choices through changed incentives. And I think that really, for me, sums up economics, whether you're talking about development, environment, household economics, macro, micro, so I think like we really need to introduce it that way. And there's nothing gender specific about that definition, there's nothing gender specific about understanding how your society works and how people make choices in your society and how you should influence that. So I think introducing economics in this more sort of a developed and evolved definition of this multidisciplinary subject at the intersection of so many things and about society. I think that's something that we need to do that through books, through schools, through teachers, and through webinars like this, hopefully.
I always find that, oh, sorry.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
No,
just a quick one. I always find that people think I work in finance, and I think it comes from those perceptions, and it is important to just know that it's not limited to that. And I think that perception is partly what puts off some girls. But go ahead, Kate. I think you're on mute. Sorry, Kate, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. No, what I was just going to say was what really got me interested in economics sort of in my later years of study was just the idea that, so many of the decisions that are made that influence sort of the social and the political side of things. And as I said earlier, economics does trickle down into sort of everything that we do. It touches everything that we do. So, when the big decisions that are being made, they're not reflective of society as a whole, when the boards of companies, when policymakers, when they're all largely is male dominated, how is that going to reflect the way that women and ethnic minorities, how are decisions going to really fully, truly reflect society? It's just that underrepresentation of women and minorities within the field that I think that really spurred on my interest, because it was, this is the chance for people who are underrepresented to get into the field. And it's, as Shruti was saying, it's positioning economics not just as being this thing with money and finance, and changing these misconceptions really, and trying to really relate to a younger demographic who, as we can see now with everything that's going on, we've got this amazing younger generation who are so, in very many ways they're angered by what's going on, and they're really here to make a change, and they care about what's going to happen with their future. So what a better chance to really change the way that we teach economics, and that we sort of include economics in our teaching, and just changing it to make sure that we can relate to a younger generation who are full of ambition to change the way that the future will be, and making it relatable, and showing that there are so many different options, and
I think it's a good point that you make, because as much as we are going through economic struggles kind of globally at the moment, it does often lead to a resurgence in people wanting to understand what is going on and have a bit more agency and power in that and be more informed. And so I do think it is a good time to also think about the field and how we can diversify and improve it. So I think that, I think that's a really important point. I'm going to go back to the chat because there are a couple more questions. I want to make sure that we do get in as many as we can. I'm going to group together two, so feel free, panelists, if you want to come in on these. So one of them is, would you say studying economics allowed you to have a wide range of career opportunities? And the second one is, how have you found corporate life as a woman? Do you feel you face any challenges which perhaps men do not face, and how have you overcome these? I think that's a really important one because it's a bit broader than specifically the work in economics, but just your experience in the workplace. Would anyone like to come in on either of those?
I'm happy to come in about the corporate side. So I think, I know obviously I kind of face two challenges. One, obviously, or not challenges, but I kind of come at it from two angles. One, obviously, I am a female, and secondly, also I'm very young. So I think having those two different angles, but I think genuinely, like, what has really surprised me, and it kind of goes back to the point before, that if you show an interest and if you show a passion, then people are so responsive to help you understand, to bring you in, to be inclusive. And I think that was something that I actually really didn't expect, and it was a really nice, pleasant surprise that genuinely the more passion you have, and if you are passionate, then you will get a lot, like, you will get along. Age, gender, it doesn't make any difference. This is my experience once I've been here, that once you start delving deeper, actually you could be, I'm working with some people now who are close to retirement, like, and we're at completely opposite ends of the age spectrum, but actually you can set all that aside, because at the end of the day, the economics is the economics, the problem is the problem, and we can, in a way, that's really helpful as well, because we can bring different perspectives to it. I had something the other week where I said, as a female, I'd experienced this, and they said, well, thank you, Annabelle, because I'd never even thought that was a problem. So I think almost turning it on its head and using it as an advantage, saying, well, actually, I can bring a different perspective to this. And the other thing just to say on that is, I think this perception is there that, women aren't in economics, it is there, the perception is there. But I think if we look at the reality, I mean, my team, actually, I think 90% of us are female. Now, whether that's because there's clearly that there's multi-factors that contribute to that, but I think in these newer areas of economics that are taking us away from the pure, like, monetary analysis, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working in the climate space. So it's kind of that different new perspective of economics, and the jobs are so highly sought after that it's the females now that are really coming into it. And actually, it's a really lovely environment to work with both females and males. And so just overcoming that. And again, it's trusting your gut. If you know that's where you want to be, whether you're female, male, whether you are old, young, it doesn't matter. Follow your gut, because that will allow you to get along in your area of work. Having that passion is 100% the most important thing. compared to anything else, it's having that passion and wanting to delve deeper, I would say. Sorry, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but hopefully that gives a bit of perspective.
No, that was super helpful. Thank you so much, Annabelle. I'm so sorry. I think I heard someone, but we've got to wrap up quite quickly. I want to make sure that I get top tip. So sorry, but I will come to you, Matilda, for your top tip, if that's all right. So sorry we didn't manage to get to all the questions. I just want to do a really quick fire top tip from I think Shruti's already given hers. If you want to do another one, go for it. But I'll come to you first, Matilda, and then we're going to have to wrap up. But it's been incredible hearing from you all. So I'll let you go on that top tip.
Hi. So I just want quickly to say that from the talk, the impression is that females don't go a lot into macroeconomics as finance economics. In KPMG, for example, or many other companies, there are a lot of women also going in those subjects. So I don't want to give the message that those are male-oriented subjects. So it's really important that we also get women in those fields. And of course, there are many different fields, and that is not the only fields that exist in economics. That's not the only thing that you do, but there are a lot of women in those fields as well. And we also need women in those fields that will make a very valuable impact to have female in those areas as well. So I encourage you, if you find those subjects really interesting, to go and study them and not care about stereotypes that there can be. And one of my tips is be yourself, bring yourself wherever you are, at university, at school, at work in the future. Bring always yourself, give value to yourself, because being yourself, it's the most important thing that you can do and you bring value. And also try a lot of different things and try to talk to people and get experience on, try to understand what you like, and you have the possibility of trying different things. So don't feel the pressure of following just one journey and one career path. So try as much as you can.
Thank you so much. Charlotte, do you have a top tip?
Yeah, just very quickly, my top tip is you do not need to study economics at A-level to study at uni. That was a big misconception when I was at school. And also, just please, I sort of struggled with confidence a lot in A-level, sort of A-level age. And just if there's something that you want to apply for, a uni you want to apply for, an apprenticeship you want to apply for, that you're not sure whether you're good enough, just apply. That there's really nothing to lose. Like, I've applied to things that I haven't gotten into. Don't look at it as a failure. Like, you learn something for each of those experiences. So yeah, that's my tip. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Kate, do you have a top tip?
Yeah, very quickly, just never be afraid to ask questions. Quite a few people in my work, my managers always told me that no question is a stupid question. Everyone started somewhere and everyone's probably had the same question as you. So never be ashamed to ask a question. And yeah, that's from me.
Amazing. Annabelle, top tip?
I know I've banged on about it a lot, but trust your gut. Just trust your gut. It's never ever too late to change. I know Charlotte literally showed us that with, changing from full-time uni to degree apprenticeship. Nothing is ever a waste of time. It's all amazing experience to help you reach your final destination. And that final destination doesn't have to be reached in 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. It's a process. And so your path is never linear. So don't be afraid to just, even if you think it's a deviation, you can come back. It is so it's so versatile that and it's so cliche to say, but the world is wide and you can get there through so many different routes.
Thank you so much. Just want to say thank you so much to all of our panelists, and thank you to Discover Econ for hosting this. Thank you so much for your time, and you can log in to have a look at Discover Econ at discovereconomics.co.uk, and there will be more events. So thank you all and have a great rest of the day.